So hello everyone. I'll be talking about something a little bit different, a lot less code, a lot more about communication and talking to people. It's very part of the software development, not just talking to people, but also convincing them to do stuff that you want them to do, and specifically in the context of the software metrics. So this is the project, and sprint driven by Nataliya, who couldn't be here today. So Aleksandre, her sidekick in this project. So if I say something stupid, it's because I'm clueless and not the reflection of Nataliya or the project. But anyway, so we are talking about in this sprint and the project, and it will be this sprint for us has been kind of transitional in a way. We have been working with Siemens Gamesa for all past year. We started doing the COVID. There was not that much action in terms of like meetings and being engaged with them. But like in this spring, we really had more closer interaction with them, visiting them in Denmark and figuring out exactly what they're trying to do. But let's talk about the project and vision for it itself. So our overall vision is to understand and improve communications about metrics, because one thing is to design metrics tools for improving software quality. So things like the defects, how fast they're fixed, etc. But another thing is to get actually people to use those metrics properly, and also feed into the metrics tools itself, give feedback, and take up its use. So we want to understand the communication about and around metrics, providing the insights and suggestions for enabling effective communication using different channels, and then creating a better understanding of metrics that contributes hopefully to informed decisions, increase employee involvement, and hopefully some sort of innovation of local software development teams realizing what are the ways that they could use these metrics to actually improve their processes, improve the code quality, etc. And Siemens has been trying to do that now for a bit. And they have been doing a pretty good job in terms of like developing the metric tool itself. So they have a dedicated metrics team. And if we look at the sort of in theory what you should be doing to develop good metrics initiative, they do that. They have a dedicated team. They have been doing an incremental implementation. Talented people. They use Power BI to do that, and they have been gathering quite a lot of data from their software development organization. And their software development organization is very distributed. So there is people in Denmark, in Spain, in Germany, India, and some more places around the world. And the thing has been that the metrics, even though they are implemented fairly unevenly in terms of how different teams are using them. So the start of this project has actually been that as they develop this, they wanted to understand more how to actually engage all these different teams equally and get them on board. And in the beginning, we sort of started more into thinking of the kind of classical communication approaches. So disseminating the information about this, providing sort of like people additional training or information sessions to get them to understand how this networks works. But that kind of had some of the limited success. And it did not help that it all has been happening during the COVID. So yeah, people work distributed anyway in such a big organization, but there was even less contact and personal interaction with people. So we tried to think during this thing really what we can do about that. So again, in context of our project, the good thing about metrics is that, and what they want to do is that those applications provide real-time data on the software defects, so they can see where the defects happen. Because they have had these problems where defects happen, you don't notice them for a while, then they come to the system integration happens, and then nothing works. So then you need to kind of, it's a lot of cost and a lot of time wasted. So they want to have this real data on them. And they also want to have a big picture to see where those defects occur, how they occur, and perhaps also kind of trying to understand what's the good time investment in terms of actually fixing those different defects. Where do you get kind of most value for your money? Put this effort, get the biggest impact. So they want to kind of drive that through the metrics initiative. And they also want, and that's sort of the important point here, is to use those metrics to drive a little bit of a change. So to really equip the Scrum Masters with the information to see that, okay, hey, we need to change something in our processes because certain things doesn't work. And it's informed and it's data-based and not just based on the fields. So that's kind of a noble goal. But then the challenge has been that they are onboarding these teams into the metrics consistently. So to have accurate metrics, you also want people to consistently and accurately report different effects on time. And that has been a problem because, again, you have a lot of different teams that are in different places. There has been teams that have come into the company through mergers and acquisitions, so they have a different culture, different ways of reporting these things. So kind of bringing this consistency has been a challenge. There's also kind of some skepticism and lack of trust of like why those metrics are needed. Intentions are very good from the metrics team, and I mean, again, they don't really want this to be a sort of a vehicle for competition or showing that, oh well, this team doesn't perform, so we punish them or anything like that. It's really about to help teams self-develop in many ways. But of course, there is always a skepticism, especially for the teams that are far away from the core of the organization, to kind of see that, okay, well, there might be potential dangers here. If we start to be measured, there might be negative consequences for us. And I mean, even with the best intentions, some of those unintended effects can happen because you might not mean those numbers to be used for benchmarking and competition and blaming. But once people get the numbers, that's what they tend to do. So how to kind of like soften that impact as well is a problem. And figuring out like who should have this data, what do they need to do, and identify really the right targets to hit. So that has been kind of like the discussion of like how to do. And they started rolling out so that they had a number of the first kind of the earlier versions of this thing, so that they did multiple iterations of the metrics tool. And it has been introduced to all the relevant teams. So the head of the metrics and their also management went and met every specific team, explained them how metrics work, what they need to do. But the take-up, as I said, was quite uneven. So what we have been planning and started on in this sprint, and we'll continue doing the next sprint, is to introduce this idea of the champions for driving these metrics initiative, which is something, I mean, champions are used a lot in also the IT software implementation. So that's not necessarily a new thing, but we thought that it might be appropriate here in this case. And that idea we got when we went actually to Denmark with Nataliya. We interviewed a bunch of people there, and also we had some video calls with the remote teams, and we kind of saw this kind of unevenness that there are like some people who are really into these metrics, like they believe into those more than the metrics team themselves. They're like, yes, this is great. We have been using it in these ways, not only the ways that you told us, but also in other ways. We have been able to standardize how we report on the defects, and they get results. And then there are some others who don't even think about it. So we kind of thought that whether we can really leverage those people that really believe into it and kind of can show that they're getting a good use out of it without sort of unhealthy dynamics or unhealthy effects that can come with the metrics, and try to disseminate that throughout the organization. And in this spring, especially kind of towards the end of the spring, we did a little bit of like researching into what has been done in the literature about the champions. So kind of like what are the theoretical frameworks for that, but also best practices that one can drive on implementation of this, and try to really plan for the future for the automotive. And this is about metrics. Yeah. So champions, what they essentially do is that they really believe into this thing. So to sort of disseminate that rather than pushing those different initiatives and metrics in this case from top down, where somebody, the boss, comes to those remote development teams and tells them that this is what you need to do. Instead, it's more kind of inherent. It comes from your peers, it comes from your nearest managers who have more reference points as to how we can benefit from these metrics. So it doesn't become this thing that we have to do because somebody in Denmark or Germany decided that this is a good idea. So try to really kind of build on this. So to this, we also, this is Nataliya's work posted in this kind of like based on these best practices in the literature we developed this roadmap that perhaps we could use with the Siemens in the autumn to have those champions. And it's again nothing unintuitive here, but it's really starting with the defining of the purpose. And again, that's something that we will need to perhaps a little bit research and talk to the people to see, even among those people who are like very active and into these metrics, they have slightly different ideas what it is about. And it's not necessarily wrong, not everybody has to have an exactly same idea, that's not what we want, but defining why are we doing these metrics, what are these boundaries for it to inform other people. Then identifying the champions that work, I think we have a good grounds with that. We will continue doing that. But then kind of like there where we will be paying attention really is to training and educating the champions, empowering them, and then sort of aligning the expectations. That would be the areas to kind of see, okay, which are the teams that might not have champions yet, or people who are into the metrics quite as much. Can we then like choose and select the people from there that we can sort of coach or train or get them to hang out with people who are really into the Scrum Masters that are into the metrics, and provide them with this sort of vision that they can take back to their teams and help to promote the metrics. But in addition to that, so kind of that's one part of it. That's trying to leverage the people that we have, research, maybe a little bit like skepticism points, and also the potential kind of tie-ins there, the people that we can really grab from those teams to empower and educate them. That's kind of one part of it. But another part of it is we want to actually organize the cross-sharing for Siemens Gamesa between them and other organizations in software center. So specifically, Nataliya, I think, has been talking to Ericsson and Axis Communications as well, who have been pretty good at both implementing the metrics, but getting other people in the organization excited about it. So our plan is to organize some workshops with them, with a little bit of a experience exchange there, and then we will create during the autumn a plan for them to start building those champions capability. Identify the people, provide them with the necessary training, provide them with necessary power that they could go and try implementing that. Hopefully, then if we go for the sprint after, then we can maybe leverage on those and